Hey there, it's me, Rad.
Today we're going to be drawing animals. Now, I have a few animal books here that I found that I'm going to use as reference. In fact, that's what they're made for photo reference, as the title says. I've got one on birds and I have one on general wildlife. I think I'm going to draw a chipmunk, that's in this one, and an owl from this one, and maybe another animal as well. This is the drawing paper I'll be using, a Strathmore drawing paper, sketchbook. And this is the type of drawing I will be doing, which is called a sketch. Now, what is a sketch? A sketch is a light, usually light. This is dark for the purposes of seeing it on camera, but a light and loose kind of drawing to where you try to get the feel of what the shapes are doing and how they're interacting and how they're all put together. I have an eraser on my pencil, but this is not the type of drawing where you erase. You don't have to erase. As you can see here, the mistakes are shown overlapping each other where I was trying to find the shape and then I changed the direction as I went along, right? You leave that all in there. Afterwards, we're going to be doing a contour drawing over it with some texture lines as well, right? So some of these lines are textured. You've got some lines here that are dashed lines or broken lines to give a sense of texture, all right? So what is the reference that we need to be using? It is the chipmunk. There he is. This one in particular. All right. So we start a new page. Here we go. Now, the thing you should do when you sketch is to try to find, in your mind anyway, try to look at this and ask yourself, what basic shapes do you see, right? The head here kind of looks like a rounded cone type shape, like a triangle. So that's what I'm going to put in. Notice I'm drawing fairly large. You know, if you have a sketchbook this big, then go big. If it's a small sketchbook, go big as well. You know, there's no point in drawing something this small in a sketchbook this big because you want to put as much information as you can. And the information I'm talking about in this case is texture lines and also those distinctive qualities that make, in this case, a chipmunk and chipmunk, you know, the creature features as you might call them. In this case, it's those dark striped hair on the back and also on the head too of its body. That's what makes it look like a chipmunk. So back to the sketch. Now I'm going to draw big and I'm trying to find those simple shapes. Look at this arm over here, sort of like a curve like this, like a U. And then I've got this body, no, a little smaller. Notice I'm just drawing without worrying about that I'm drawing too many lines. There's actually a smaller space here, and here's where the feet come out from. And then the tail shall be cropped, which means cut off at the sides of the paper. And let me just put in here the ears, even though I could always change that later. It looks like it might be eating something. Too small to tell. General area for the eye. And then, so I don't forget, I'm going to put in some of these lines to show the creature features, the distinguishing characteristics, which are these stripes. Now, put in this, as best as I could tell, that's what I see. Okay, so that's done. All right, so my lines, contour lines, what are they? Contour basically just means like outline, right? A line drawing. But I'm also going to consider the texture. So when I do this, I'm going to make my lines sometimes imperfect. Now, I have chosen the line I like the best out of all the sketch lines that I have done. And here I'm going to fill in. I'm going to do this line. Notice I've already made some lines imperfect. and you know, some dashed lines, because, you know, nature, as this is a natural being, is perfectly imperfect. So I'm going to draw this ear, and then this one comes up from the front, kind of rounded there. There you go. And put the eye in. Let's make him come to life. Or her. Now, I'm going to put a highlight. I'm going to leave a spot where it's catching light. That is a little trick that makes this creature come to life. Let's put in some of those lines to make it look like it's got a stripe. See, I kind of put the lines close together. And let's do this one. And you can't see this, but my eyes are always looking back at the original reference material, the original photograph that I'm using. At every step of the way. Even if I were to go and paint watercolor over this, I would still be looking back at that reference. Notice the lines are going this way now, as opposed to here, they're going down. Those are things to look at, things to notice. Now, I've changed my mind a bit. This foot, I'm going to make it smaller than the sketch itself. And I can't really tell what's going on exactly because there's some grass in the way, but that part here I've used a bit of imagination as opposed to observation, which is what we're doing right now. This is technically an observation drawing because we're looking at a reference material. Obviously, we don't have a chipmunk posing for us. Although, wouldn't that be a fun idea? Let me put in some lines here. Just some texture lines here, there, but not everywhere. We want to communicate. Now, we're artists. One of the many, many functions of art is communication. So I'm communicating to whoever looks at this. This is a chipmunk. These are the creature features. It's got short hairs. It moves in this direction, and they go in that direction. You know, these are the kind of things you want to communicate. All right, there it is. There's my chipmunk. The last thing you could do, I suppose, is sign your name. For the next one, I'm going to draw a bird, which is sort of similar to drawing hair with its feathers. All right, what does it say here? Burrowing owl. I like this one here. It's standing up fairly straight as opposed to that, although I kind of like them both. And it's looking right at me. Although one eye here is in shadow, but I think, you know, because I am the artist and I can make these executive decisions, I'm gonna make it look more like that one, like the one on its left eye. Now, simple shapes again. And I'm gonna draw big, and I'm gonna draw starting wherever I wanna start. You know, when you draw animals on your own, you could start wherever you feel comfortable. For some reason, the head is calling my name, just like it did with the other one. So I'm gonna start with that, and I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna start a little bit on the left side. Notice that there's a lot of negative space here, which creates a triangle in the photograph itself. So I'm gonna leave that in here. And if I make this too big, I could go smaller. Now, what basic shape was that? An oval. Watch the next one. The next one is still gonna be sort of like that teardrop shape that I did with the other one. Remember last time it was a rounded triangle like this? This one here is sort of like this, but rounded that way. That's the wing. Should I make it longer? Can always fix it. That's what sketching is all about. Now the body, an oval. And then I've got a totally different angle here. Things to look at, things to notice are its talons. I've drawn one too many. So when I go over this later on with a pen, or I could just use a pencil, by the way, and just press darker. But I'm gonna use a pen so it stands out for you. I could just not go over that. Remember, I'm not erasing. That's the technique that I'm working on here. Now it looks like there's another tail coming down here. And this comes over like that. All right, let me go back to the face. I kind of skipped over the eye, which surprisingly is for an owl. It's not perfectly round. It's kind of squared off shapes. See that? Sort of like a rectangle, but cut off at the top here. This is making a V shape here. That's what I saw, so that's what I draw. All right. The body and the head all should connect, so I'm doing that, but there's some hair-like feathers here, so I'm putting that in. All right, I think I'm ready for the outline. Again, I'm not going to use perfect straight lines. Sometimes I could break them up like that. So already putting in some texture. Because the goal here is to go for more reality, not as stylized. All right. I see some overlapping feathers there, so I'm already starting to put that in. There you have it. All right, let me focus here on these talons. Pretty much I just see the one in the front for the most part. Look at those nails. Okay, that's the one I'm skipping, right? Because I did an extra one there for no reason. So I was trying to figure it out with my sketch. All right, I hope I'm accurate enough. I'm actually gonna go ahead and already start putting in some texture here. Texture is the way something feels, in case I didn't mention that before. So if I were to actually feel this, it might feel pebbly, right? It might feel like there's little bumps on it. So that's what I put in there. All right, so did that. Now let me put in this beak and this line here, and then the eye. Outline a little thick. Looks like it's got makeup on. Look at that. And now the eye is tucked in. Let me experiment. Should I give it a highlight, even though I don't see it there? Do I like that? No, it looks realistic enough. Let me try it with the next one. Remember, this one I'm going to actually put in this other eye, even though it's in shadow. Usually with a highlight, you want to make it seem like the light is coming from the same direction, so they're both coming from left to right in the drawing. All right, it's got a lot of, I don't know if I like the highlight. It's got a lot of hair-like textures here, and notice the direction that I see them going in. So that's what I got to put in. Whereas here, it radiates from the center, sort of, kinda. You know, if I were drawing this with colored pencils, then I could really show the dark and light tones. But with just line drawing like this, that's how I'm going to convey it. Remember, perfectly imperfect. This is nature for you. I'm actually going to put a little extra darkness there. All right, I can always come back to that. I'm excited about putting in this pattern. Notice I'm not just outlining it like this. I'm doing it with texture, right? I'm putting in the pattern with texture, and I'm putting it in imperfectly because that's how I see it there. Nature is perfectly imperfect. He definitely has personality, doesn't he? Or she, or they. All right. And that's the owl. This is the part where you sign it. Next up, for the next image, I'm going to be using a different book. I'm going to be using this book here. I don't know if it's in print anymore. It was put out by Barnes & Noble, and that's what I'm going to be drawing actually. I'm going to be drawing a frog. And these are all illustrations, so artists have drawn these or painted these to look very realistic. Now I'm going to change the orientation of this paper to horizontal. All right, so what shape do I see here? Well, if I look at this thing, I'm going to draw it here for you. I kind of see this kind of polygon. I see kind of a diamond almost, or looks like a flint rock shape. So I'm going to draw that first. Then I think I'm going to go with, because I feel comfortable with that, next is the double jointed back legs, which give it the ability, you know, the creature features of this animal is that it's got double jointed back legs that allows it to jump. So I'm going to do that. And it looks like two C's, sort of like this. I'm going to draw it here. Sort of like the two letter C's, right? See that? And that looks like a triangle shape with negative spaces in between, a little bump there. This is like an L. Do you see that? I'm going to change the angle a bit, make it more like this. And again, I see a triangle here, and then you take out the negative spaces like that. Sometimes it's helpful to look at the negative spaces than it is the positive. For example, look at the spacing between here. I'm already thinking this needs to come up more because I'm comparing the negative space to that, to this one, and this needs to come down more. And that's why sketching is important, because sometimes you're unsure about a drawing and you just want to sketch it first before you do just a straight contour drawing. Let's put the eyes in. A little longer. And the bump in the back, and there's a bump here. And a little bit of line here for the mouth. All right, let me start contour. Now this animal, it's not fluffy like the last two, where there was some fluffiness going on, whether it was hair or whether it was feathers. So I'm not going to do those same kind of broken lines. I'm going to go more with a smooth line. It's hard to tell what the eyeball is doing, but I do notice there is a highlight. So I'm going to fill this in. It's the one thing you have to fill in, because otherwise it does look odd if you don't. I'm going to put in some texture lines now. See some of the wrinkles in there. And then I'm ready for pattern. We have another one that's got a lot of patterns. You can notice right away, I'm taking the ideas from these patterns, but I'm not doing them exactly like the photograph. But I am being pretty faithful in the shapes and the size that they are. And so on and so forth. Did I make that eye too big? I don't know. You tell me. It's still darn cute though. All right. What I didn't mention in the last two drawings, if you want to draw the background using your imagination, you can. In this case, it looks like it's on a log. I can make it look like it's on a lily pad. And then of course you need to sign it. The wonders of sketching, I could just sketch right over this thing. Look at this. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So you get to see that. So I could have put him on the log, but instead I've got her sitting on a lily pad. All right, it's your turn to do some sketching and then contour drawings over them with a pen or just a pencil. Try a few different animals. Get cracking.